So our next one then is going to be in between the Yalta and the Potsdam Conference, because what happened in between these two, even though it's in the same year, there was a huge amount of change that happened in the Grand Alliance. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put what I'd like to put is attitudes of Stalin, Truman, so we've got a new president now, and I'll explain why in a minute, and Churchill. Okay. So, first off then, we've got a new president. Why have we got a new president? Because Roosevelt actually died in between these two conferences. So Roosevelt died in 1945, and he was replaced by President Truman. Okay, so now we've got a new president that was not there present during the Yalta Conference, so Stalin already knows that he's got an advantage here. Okay, so one key point to make is that Truman was heavily against communism. He was heavily against the ideology of communism. Okay, he was heavily capitalist, which is a complete different ideology to what communism is. Okay, now Stalin had actually suspected that the West did not want a strong Soviet Union. Okay, so he actually wanted there to be more communist governments in Eastern Europe. So he wanted to establish Eastern communist governments. Okay. Now obviously Truman did not like this. Now what was happening during this point, as you will remember, is that the USA are obviously against Japan in a war, and Truman at this point has managed to test an atom bomb. Now an atom bomb was the biggest new thing in weaponry during the time. It was a huge development in weaponry, and therefore put America as the greatest superpower in the world. As you can see, this is going to start early tensions already. Now Truman tested the atom bomb, okay, which made Stalin furious. Stalin did not like this because he realised that not only did he was not told by Truman that this was going to happen, but now it means that the Soviet Union are weaker than the USA. Okay. Now, the last thing to add to this point is that Churchill was deeply suspicious of Stalin's intentions. Now, think about the things that Stalin wanted in the Yalta Conference. He wanted Germany to pay a huge amount of reparations, and he wanted to split Eastern Europe. Now, his intention was obviously to greater the power of the Soviet Union, and Churchill could see this, so he was very suspicious of Stalin's intentions. Okay. However, what happened was that Churchill was not reinstated as the Prime Minister of Great Britain. Okay, so instead Churchill was replaced by a guy named Clement Attlee. Okay, so he was replaced by Clement Attlee. So now, as you can see, when we're going to move on to the Potsdam Conference, that we actually have two leaders that have been changed, and the only constant between the two is that Stalin is still in power. Okay. Now, Stalin being the only one that was present during the other two conferences, he's already gearing himself up for what is going to be agreed at Potsdam. He realises that he's in the strongest position. Okay? So, Potsdam Conference, which was also in 1945. Okay? So, this is what actually happened then. Okay? So we've got that Germany was divided into 4 zones. Germany would pay reparations. So it would pay reparations. Nazis were punished for war crimes. And there would be a full participation in the United Nations. Okay. So what we have here is we have early tensions because Truman had, like I said before, not told Stalin that there was a testing of the atom bomb. Okay. Now, this is what Stalin's main concern was. He realised that now, after this, when they go into the new world after World War II, that they're not going to come out on top. Okay. So, this led up to the end of the Grand Alliance. Okay, so our last point in this video today is going to be the end of the Grand Alliance. So, the end of the Grand Alliance. Okay, so this started when the end of World War II actually happened. So Germany surrendered. What actually happened during the Potsdam was that Truman pushed around Stalin. Okay, he wanted to seem like he was the one that was coming out on top. So Truman pushed around Stalin, which created huge tensions already early on. Okay. Now, the USA during the same year had actually dropped an atom bomb over Japan, okay, which immediately ended the war between the USA and Japan. Now, as you can see, if you remember, Stalin agreed that he would help with defeating Japan, but he was not needed because the atom bomb was created instead. So that meant that the USA did not agree to giving over the railway to Stalin, because the railway was agreed to give to Stalin if they helped out in defeating Japan. So he didn't get the railway. Okay, he didn't get what he wanted. Now, Great Britain at this point was economically exhausted. They was in a poor position after World War II. Okay, so they was economically exhausted by World War II. And unable to stand against the Soviet Union alone. Okay, so it needed the USA as an ally. Now, that meant even more tensions because Stalin realised that the USA and Great Britain would stand together which would then create tensions between the two superpowers. Okay? Now this led to the breakdown of trust. I'm going to end it there, but on the next video I'll talk about the breakdown of trust. So we're going to start talking about how the Yalta agreements were betrayed by the different countries. We're going to talk about Churchill's Iron Curtain speech, talk about the Long Telegram and the Novikov Telegram, and we'll talk about the very, very early tensions which started the Cold War.